Go ahead, check your pockets. Or that change jar you've got sitting on your dresser. I bet you'll find a few of these guys in there. The 5-cent piece, the nickel. It feels so permanent, right? Just a part of American life we never really think twice about. But what if I told you that this little seemingly harmless coin is actually a financial black hole? Seriously, that every single time one of these is made, it's actually costing the government and, us taxpayers, a ton of money. Let's dig into the surprisingly expensive story of the American nickel. So to really get why the nickels is such a mess today, we gotta go way back to the beginning. And here's a wild fact for you. The original nickel wasn't even made of nickel. Yeah, back when it was first created in 1792, it was called the half dime, and it was made of actual silver. But then the Silver War happened, and the value of silver just skyrocketed. At the same time, inflation was making 5 cents worth less and less. All of a sudden, the metal inside the coin was worth more than the coin's actual face value. And what's so fascinating here is that you see history literally repeating itself. Back then, people started melting down the silver half dimes to sell the metal for a quick profit. So the mint switched to a cheaper metal, nickel, and they renamed the coin. Problem solved, right? Well, yeah, for a while. But after 100 years of inflation, you guessed it, even the cheap nickel and copper became worth more than 5 cents. So what did the government do this time around? Did they stop making a coin that people were literally melting down for scrap? Nope. They just made it illegal to melt it down, and then they kept right on making them, at a loss. And that brings us right into the middle of today's financial mess. This isn't just some dusty old history lesson. This is a real, ongoing economic disaster. Just look at this number. Today, the metal in a nickel alone costs more than 5 cents. But when you add in all the other costs of running the mint, the machines, the workers, the whole operation, it costs a staggering 14 cents to produce one single 5-cent coin. And well, when you're minting about 1.5 billion of these coins every single year, those losses add up fast. The government spends around $210 million just to create $75 million worth of nickels. That's a loss of $135 million every single year. I mean, think about it. The one thing a government should be able to do profitably is make money. That's kind of the whole point. So when you're losing money while you are literally printing money, that is a huge, flashing red sign that something is just fundamentally broken. And this chart just puts it all into perspective. You always hear people talking about getting rid of the penny, right? Because it costs about 2 cents to make, so we lose a cent on each one. But the nickel? Oh, the nickel is so much worse. We're losing 9 cents on every single coin. The case for killing the nickel is 9 times stronger than the case against the penny. Okay, so maybe you could argue that losing a bit of money is fine if the coin is, super important for our economy. So let's ask a really simple question. Is the nickel even useful anymore? The answer, to put it bluntly, is a big fat no. 100 years ago, a nickel could get you into a movie theater. That's literally where the name Nickelodeon came from. Today, a single nickel buys you basically nothing. Most vending machines won't even take them anymore. Their only real job is to make exact change. But honestly, the time we all waste digging around for one probably costs more in lost productivity than the coin is even worth. Now, I get it. The idea of just stopping production of a coin, it sounds pretty radical. But it's actually a surprisingly normal part of American history. That's right. Getting rid of coins that have just outlived their usefulness isn't some crazy, newfangled idea. It's basically a tradition. Let's talk about the half-cent coin. Ever seen one? Yeah, of course not. It was killed off way back in 1857 because it was just worth too little to even bother with. But here is the absolute kicker. When they got rid of the half-cent, it had more buying power than a dime does today. Let that sink in. We eliminated a coin back then that was more valuable than a coin we still use now. And that's not the only one. There was also the trime, a 3-cent coin. It was made to solve a specific problem, and once that problem was gone, America just stopped making them. No big deal, no crisis, it's just plain old common sense. Okay, so the case seems pretty clear, right? Ditch the nickel, and hey, while we're at it, let's ditch the penny too. All cash transactions would just round to the nearest 10 cents. Simple. Well, not quite. It creates this one very weird, totally unexpected problem. All right, walk through this with me. If we only have dimes and quarters, and all our prices round to the nearest 10 cents, Think about paying for something that costs, say, 25 cents or 75 cents. You can't actually do it with exact change. With only dimes as the smallest coin, you can only make change for amounts that end in zero. A quarter, which ends in a 5, becomes impossible to use by itself. You'd have to use them two at a time to make 50 cents. It's a bizarre little logistical nightmare. So how on earth do we solve that weird little change puzzle? Well, the source material proposes a truly elegant and, pretty radical solution that looks to the future. First off, let's just all agree on one thing. The quarter is the king of American coins. It's the most useful one we have, still valuable enough for things like parking meters and laundromats. It's the most cost-effective to make. It's also uniquely American. Most other countries use 20-cent pieces. The quarter is really the only coin that's still pulling its weight. So what if instead of just fixing today's problem with the nickel, we solve tomorrow's problem with the dime? Because, let's be honest, the dime is headed down the exact same path to worthlessness. The solution? Get rid of all three. Just imagine it, a world with only one coin, the quarter. All cash prices round to the nearest quarter. It would instantly create the simplest, most efficient change system on the entire planet. No more fumbling with tiny coins, no more multi-million-dollar losses at the US Mint. We'd just keep our best coin and get rid of all the dead weight. And hey, if rounding everything to the nearest 25 cents sounds like too big of a leap, just remember this absolutely incredible fact. When the penny was first introduced, it had more purchasing power than a 25-cent quarter has today. Our ancestors handled it just fine with coins that were relatively way more valuable. So it really just leaves us with this one last thought. The nickel is a relic. It's costing us millions of dollars for a service that basically nobody needs anymore. Getting rid of it is just common sense. But maybe, just maybe, we should be thinking bigger. Maybe we should design a currency system that's actually built for the future, not stuck in the past. So, are we ready to simplify our lives and embrace a 25-cent world?